Down adversity to strength, I'm joined by Scott Lackey. Scott's life has been shaped by extraordinary highs and devastating setbacks. He has served in war, completed an Ironman, built successful businesses, experienced failure, rebuilt, and faced the painful reality that achievement alone could not provide the fulfillment he was searching for. As the life he had carefully constructed began to unravel, Scott found himself confronting difficult questions about identity, purpose, and what it truly means to become whole. Rather than allowing adversity to define him, he chose to face it head on, discovering that growth often begins where certainty ends. In this episode, we explore failure, resilience, identity and purpose, discipline, and the challenges of rebuilding your life after everything you thought defined you begins to fall away. Scott shares why success is not the same as fulfillment, how adversity can become a catalyst for transformation, why lasting change requires the courage to confront the parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. This is a thoughtful, honest conversation about perseverance, personal growth, purpose, and finding strength through life's greatest challenges. Scott, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today.
Well, Lee, that was a very gracious introduction. I thank you. And, I just wanted to also say for the audience, I love the opening line of your podcast there, the adversity. The name of the podcast, I should say, adversity, because that's where the gifts are. And I've been looking forward to this conversation. So thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. Take us back to the beginning. Where did your journey start?
For me, I want to go back to what we would call high school here in the US. And
Yeah.
I lived a really free life, if you will, as a young man, raised by a great family. And I lived life really fancy, free, and fun, right? I like to call these lightning strikes in life. To use that metaphor, we're all familiar with lightning strikes and they're violent and they scare us. And my first real lightning strike in life really, I think, set me on a course to where I am today. I didn't know it then, but that first lightning strike was when I was in high school, not knowing what I wanted to do with my life. And I mean, absolutely no clue what to do with
Yeah.
my life. And there were three people in my life that challenged me and made me very uncomfortable that I was going to have to make a decision in a very short period of time, 2 weeks, about what direction I was going to choose. And I felt the weight of that decision. And I felt the weight because I knew my decision could have serious consequences. And I did something different than most people do is I came to a decision through a moment where one late evening watching television here in America, there was a famous commercial on during that time of my life for the United States Army. And the commercial said, with tanks rolling across the screen, right, and soldiers marching in unison and helicopters, to a young man, right, the commercial said, join the Army and be all you can be. And then the music played and it said, we do more before 8 a.m. than most people do all day. And I sat up out of my bed, Lee, and it was like a lightning strike went off in my brain. And I knew exactly at that moment in time what I was going to do with my life. And I love your opening question because that was a pivotal moment for me in making that decision to not go to college or not go straight into the workforce, but to go in the United States Army. That forever changed the direction of my life.
Yeah.
And that was my very first pivotal moment.
Because you hear it all the time in America, whether it's movies or not, the parents, like, they go on to college, no matter what, they're getting a college education. It's like the be all and end all there as well. So to decide to do something completely different,
Well, you just hit on something. I was gonna say
yeah,
you hit on something you
go on.
didn't even know about, is that that's actually what my parents told me, is they
Yeah.
set me down on a Saturday, in our living room, my mom and dad on one couch, me on the other side of the room on a couch, and my dad said, your mom and I wanted to share with you your options for when you graduate high school, and they're not in any order. You have 3 to choose from, and we're gonna share them with you. You pick any one you like and let us know. So, okay, what are the options? Well, Scott, you can go to college, or go to college. Just let us know.
I'll get back to you.
I said, yeah, that's what I said. I said, okay. I said, I guess I need to think about what college. And I panicked. I absolutely panicked. And of course, to give you a little bit of a spoiler, this will tell you a little bit about who I was as a young man. Sometimes I would argue with people and they would say the sky is blue. I'd say, no, it's not. It's light blue. It's argue to argue. And, but anyway, as was typical of me, when I came back to them, my dad said, okay, which college did you pick? I said, Dad, I didn't pick a college. I'm going in the United States Army. And my mom dipped her head and tears came to her eyes. And my dad just paused and he stared at me and he goes, you know what, son? I think this is going to be good for you. And that was it.
How was life when you joined the army? What were you? Was it what you were expecting, or?
It was what I expected and more. and I loved it. Yeah, I loved the United States Army, still do. Now, again, is the Army this wonderful, glamorous life? No, I mean, you're cleaning latrines and you're doing all the stuff that you see and hear about. You're doing all that. It wasn't those things that anybody likes. What I loved in the military is that I was in 8 years, 4 years in America, we call it active duty, right? When you're full time active
Yeah.
duty, right? So my first 4 years were active duty. I got to work I had the greatest leaders I've ever met in my life in the Army. And my first duty station in Europe was just or just east of Stuttgart, Germany. And I was in
Yeah.
a nuclear missile unit. I worked for a two-star general in a nuclear missile unit in Europe for 2 years. Then I was with the 1st Infantry Division in Fort Riley, Kansas, very famous United States Army division, and went to Desert Shield, Desert Storm. So I absolutely loved, and it changed me as a human being. And again, it's like you said in the movies, right? I mean, I didn't have this dramatic movie experience, but I had these incredible life experiences of working in a nuclear missile unit for a two-star general and going to Desert Shield, Desert Storm with the 1st Infantry Division and all of that and other stuff, of course, but all of those things just change as a human being. And so I excelled in the military. My challenges didn't come until I left the military and went to college. And I was a mess when I left because all of the great leaders, the motivation, the discipline, all of that was the structure. It was all gone. It was just me. That was where
Okay.
the adversity. I mean, I
Yeah.
had adversity in the military, but the real human adversity hit for me when I went to college.
You hear it a lot where there's people that, especially if they've been in combat, where they're in charge of expensive equipment, other soldiers, whatever it might be, and well respected, and then they leave and they can't hold down a basic job in Civvy Street, and they really struggle with everyday life. And it's just a different world, different culture. Is that what you found when you become a civilian again after 8 years in the army?
Again, it was 4 years of active duty. This is how it works in America. So I did 4 years of active duty, and then I left regular Army when I got back from the desert, and I went to college, and then I was in what we call the National Guard, which
Yeah,
is
as a reserves.
yeah, reserves, right? So
Yeah.
you have a group, you're together once a month, and then 2 weeks in the summer, you have a
Yeah.
drill, all that. So it was the second 4 years I was in the reserves or National Guard in college. So the short answer to your question is that I went into college look, if I had to graphic, right, I went into college on a high, and every day that went by, it was like this decline, right? And the decline was this growing realization that the farther I got away from my service in the military, the more disconnected I was. It was like a slow leak in a boat, you know?
With the 8 years that you did, I spoke to other guys that have been in the forces, and they'd done their time, and that was enough for them. For you, was the 8 years, "I've gone as far as I wanna go or can go, or I wanna do something different?"
No, again, it was really one simple thing. When it came time to reenlist another 4 years, this is the conclusion I came up with. I said, "Okay, I've been over to the desert once. I wasn't there very long, like the soldiers who served in Afghanistan or Iraq, right? I wasn't there as long as them. It was a different world when I was there, but came down to one thing. I said, if you stay in long enough, you're going to be back in the desert again. That's where we're headed.
And history would have said you would have been correct. Just
Yep.
where.
Yep. And so I said, okay, do you mind going back to the desert? No, I don't mind going back if I have to. But when and if it happens, I will probably be married. I may have kids. I don't want to do that. And that was the decision for me. So I had no wife. I had no girlfriend, had no kids. I didn't even know my current wife at the time. Uh,
Yeah.
but that was my decision not to reenlist. And sure enough, man, just a short period of time later, we were there, and I would have been there.
Yeah, so it's a brave decision because I would imagine most people make that decision when they've got a wife and kids,
Yeah,
not before, preempting
that's
that.
correct. That's correct.
So what was the decline in, I don't know, what when you're saying it was going downwards, what was that going down? Was it your morale, your motivation? I don't know. What were you starting to
Yeah,
struggle with?
it was actually all of those things.
Yeah.
And when I left, when I was over in, I was actually in Iraq. This is where you used to see the pictures of all the burning oil wells. There were so
Yeah.
many burning oil wells around us that at night you could read a book standing outside at night. That's how bright all of the oil wells were. Like they were like candlesticks, man, burning out there. And one night I was on guard duty And I won't get into the details, but I had this idea for an invention. And the next morning, me and some guys cobbled together this crude model of the invention and it worked. And I swear to God, I thought, this is my life. I'm going to be a millionaire. This is what I'm going to do. That helped me codify the decision to go ahead and go to college. That was it's versus re-enlisting. That helped me say, okay, it's time to go to college and launch this invention. I get to college, I launched the invention, and it was really just a series of disasters after disasters. And that was a life force sucking event out of me because I believed in this just as I believe you're in England right now talking to me and physically. I mean, like that's how much I believed it, right? It
Sure.
was my life. So when you believe in something that much and it just slowly gets worse by the day, and everybody's experienced this listening to this. You go after something so hard, and the harder you work, it's like you slip away a little bit more. And you're like, I don't understand. Why am I sliding? I'm putting in the hours. I'm asking the questions. I'm
Yes.
doing the hard work, but I'm getting further away. It doesn't make any sense. And so that was what was pulling me. And that was what I was fighting against. And at the same time, that's happening. I'm sitting in classes that I don't care anything about, that I don't think I'm ever going to use. I just want to get my degree and go to work. So I'm wrestling with all this. And of course, there's nobody there saying, hey, Sergeant, get up, do this, do that. It was me staring at me. And I wasn't the best motivator for myself. I had discipline. I had courage. I knew how to deal with adversity. I knew all those things. But again, I'm a human being like everybody else, and I can succumb to life. And so anyway, that was that slow, leaky boat,
Yeah.
until I got to my junior year, the end of my junior year, and I hit a real low point in my life. I actually write about this in my book that I just published last month. I explicitly tell this story because it's important for people to know this, and I share it with them in my book. But I just reached the bottom, man, and when as human beings, and this is going to happen to all of us, when we reach the bottom, are you going to stay? Are you going to bounce? Are you going to crawl out, walk out, cry out? What are you going to do? And every single one of us, Lee, are going to answer that question in our life more than once.
Always. Often more than once.
Gonna be more than I call them lightning strikes. It's actually sitting right here next to me. This is in the I love talking about this topic because we all deal with this on this little blue planet we live on. It's the first 3 sentences in my book, the introduction. It says, "A lightning strike in your life doesn't arrive politely. It rips through your plans, it breaks your definitions, and it rewrites what you thought mattered. It shows up when life looks tidy. When you think you're safe, it comes to take something from you, something you placed your faith in. That's what
Yeah.
it does. And that's
Yeah.
what it did to me.
Yeah, it is when you've got something you believe passionately about, you really believe really strongly, and then something comes up, or you can see that it's not what you thought, and then and sometimes it'd be like a lightning bulb where it just big flash, and suddenly, yeah, this is not going to work, or you're still working away, believing in it, but like you said, it's ebbing away and it's not going, and the more you put in, doesn't seem to make any difference there. When did you realize that this isn't going to work? Because that's a real realization moment.
Yeah. So the realization was brought to me involuntarily. In America, during this time, there was a company that was putting commercials on TV, and the name of the company was the National Idea Center. And the commercials were, if you are willing or have money to invest in your invention, we will help you take it to market because we have the connections and we have the expertise. So I saw the commercial at a low point and I thought this was meant to be. Just like I saw the Army commercial that I went to the Army, based on that commercial. I saw this commercial. I thought, this is just like the Army. This is what I'm supposed to do. So I called these people. They were super nice. They inspired me again. It was like a shot in the arm.
Yeah.
And they basically said, for $10,000, Scott, we've evaluated what you've sent us. We believe in it. We can't promise you're going to have results, but we believe in it. For 10,000 US dollars, Scott, we'll do everything we can to help you get to market with your invention. And so I only had $3,000. I was a broke US college student with barely, anything. And actually, I met a bank president at my work one night I was at, and he said, "Why don't you come by and see me?" This was a couple of weeks after the commercial, and I literally thought, "This is God orchestrating everything."
Yeah.
And so I went and met with the president, and he loved the idea, and he personally, or the bank, loaned me this additional $7,000 I needed. I gave him the $10,000, and I just thought, "This is it." That's what all the pain was for, to get here. And weeks and months went by, and then eventually the emails, the letters stopped coming. They stopped answering the phone. The messages stopped getting returned, and I lost all that money. And it was announced that by our federal government that they had been shut down, and there were convictions because they had defrauded hundreds or thousands of people in America for many, many, many millions of dollars, and I was one of those. That was the tipping point for me where I gave everything I had plus went into debt for
Yeah.
$7,000,
Yes, which is
and
a
it
real
just
lot.
sucked the life out of me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you're how are you feeling when you the acceptance and realization of what's happened and I've got to pay this debt and
Yeah.
what happened there?
So when it officially happened, I couldn't bring myself to believe that this would happen to me, right? I just that people would do this. I just could not get
Yeah,
over
I know.
it. Okay. Yeah, and but when I came to that realization, there was almost like a 3-day, I think it was like a 3-day period. I was in a really small one-bedroom apartment. I was smoking then, and I smoked a lot those 3 days, let me tell you. I was sitting in my on my couch staring at just silence and just smoking and thinking. You know what I mean? And, I don't think I left the apartment for 3 days, but that was again, the low point, and that's how I was feeling. It's just dejected, lost,
Yeah,
stolen from, violated, lied to. I mean, all the words you can come up with. Why did this happen to me? What did I do? Why is everybody else successful and I'm not successful? All the stuff that we all think about as human beings. I went through all of it. And quite frankly, I write in my book that on that whatever it was, 3rd day, one night I'd put a cigarette out and I was just so lost, man. I just walked around the corner. There was no door between the little living room I had and you just walked around the wall. And there was my bed in the bedroom and in like a little studio. And I just walked around and I didn't even know what I was doing. I just got on my knees and laid on my bed and I didn't even know who God was. I was just like, whoever you are, what did I do? What do you want from me?
yeah.
I didn't even know what to say.
It's like
And I just
despair.
laid there. Huh?
Yeah. It's like just despair. You're in
Yeah,
despair.
what do you want? Anyway, that was the bottom, and I got up, went to bed, and, the next day was the next day, and the day after that was the next day, and the day after that, but I can tell you, of course, I didn't know it then, but you will read this in my book, this very story about the next series of events that happened over a few months that are absolutely extraordinary. Work that I didn't do, but doors started opening for a job, graduating from college. Things started unraveling in front of me, but unraveling in a good way. And it's a wonderful part of it's early in the book, the first 4 chapters, I talk about this. But it's just a wonderful story, man, about what happened.
What do you think that happened? Law of attraction, place, right time? I don't know.
Well, I do
Law
know
of
the answer now. I
averages?
didn't Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah. No, I didn't. Well, again, what happened could never be explained by math or law of averages. It can't be explained by that. But because I'm anyway, no, I can tell you what happened. And of course, I don't, the world's a lot of people believe in different things, but what I specifically believe in is that we are created by a creator. There is a God, and he does and is involved in our lives. And so for reasons I may not know until one day I'm in heaven, but there was I even hate to say it this way. I was almost going to say he made a decision, but I hate to say that because I don't know that. Here's all I know. All
Yeah.
I know is that events that I could have never orchestrated and did not orchestrate, people I didn't even know were crossing my path and doing things and showing up in places that are completely unexplainable over a series of months that led to the very thing that I was dreaming about after college and had been dreaming about since high school about where I wanted to work. I wanted to work in Dallas, Texas. My entire life, I wanted to work in Dallas, Texas. I love Texas. And again, I won't go into the details, but I tell how that exact unfolding took place, where I was offered one job upon graduation from college from one company that had 2 sales territories open in the United States of America. One of the territories was in Memphis, Tennessee, and the other territory was in Dallas, Texas.
Yeah.
I damn near cried in the interview. I said, "You've got to be kidding me. The entire United States of America, you're telling me that Memphis and Dallas are the only 2 open and I can have either one that I want?" He said, "Yeah." And I went to Dallas, Texas. I didn't do that. You know what I mean? So literally something I've been wanting my entire life unfolded. I get into the details in the book,
Yeah.
but that was a God thing, man. That's all it was. It's the only explanation.
How do you feel when things were actually taking a turn for the better for you?
I was so thankful and
Yeah.
gratitude. Those are the 2 words, thankfulness and gratitude.
Yeah.
I mean, my heart, which was, I guess you could say, as they say, turning to stone, right?
Yeah.
You don't have feeling like a lady. I think women like to call it numb. I'm numb. I was evolving out of that, and in that process, again, over weeks and months, I just kept again, things would happen, and I would just stop, and I'd go, "Nothing to do with that." And I had to make a decision, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Because there's no way I could have done it. So that's where that overwhelming feeling of curiosity. I was curious, what's next? Wow, if this is unfolding, what's next? And my eyes were open, man. My ears were open. My heart was open to what's next. And so
Was that
that
the
those were
first
all the feelings.
was that the first time that you'd started feeling maybe like you're on a sort of a journey now?
100%, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
You start looking at things in different perspectives now, looking at
100%.
opportunities. Yeah.
1,000%. Everything looked different. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, I'll give you another word, suspicious.
Suspe
I became suspicious. I did.
Yeah.
Things would happen that maybe I didn't agree with or felt like it was going to take me a direction that I wasn't going. But I was like, wait a minute, time out. How did you get here? You didn't do it. So perhaps this direction you're so worried about going, maybe you need to be a little bit more suspicious. Maybe you need to be a little curious about where it's going because if you didn't do it to get here, then why are you worried about trying to figure out where you're going next?
Yeah.
It changed everything.
Yeah. Because often we might not know, lay ahead, there might be an opportunity, but it's out of our comfort zone. So that's when we start questioning it. And that's when we got to push the boundaries. We've got to take a leap of faith sometimes.
That's right. One of the chapters in my book, the title of it is The Gifts Are in the Pain.
Yeah.
And I talk about in that chapter that success in my life, every success I've ever had taught me absolutely nothing. But every failure in my life
Oh,
gave
without a
me the
doubt.
gifts that I need.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with the failure, I mean, I say it all the time, you learn so much more from the failure. Sometimes you can succeed at something, you don't know how you done it. But when you fail, you tend to find out why. And then if you go again, you know what to change that time. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
the
a big
failure
fan
of
of
today is the brick in
failure.
the foundation of tomorrow, man.
Yeah, 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 definitely. I think it's a really important lesson there as well because you
Yeah.
learn so much. Whereas a lot of people still struggle with the failure. They think if they'd not done it first time, then they're a failure. No, you've done something that's not gone right. You've now figured out why, and now you can deal with it in the right way.
Well, I hope the listeners hear this is that when I was talking about being curious and being suspicious, another thing I learned in that period of time is okay, if failure is teaching me what I need to know, then perhaps I need to learn to fail fast to get
Mhm.
more lessons. Okay, that sounds fascinating, Scott. What does fail fast mean? Well, that means do I just hurry up and everything and look for failure everywhere? No, not necessarily. I'm looking for some wins. Right? Wins sometimes affirm we're moving in the right direction. They're gifts. But if there's no failure and all I'm doing is winning, that's a game I'm playing. Okay. That's a no win situation. So what I started doing was when I failed is I was totally okay with it. And I would do a forensic examination of what that failure was
Yeah.
and what was it supposed to teach me. And I began to absorb that. And guess what started happening? I started failing faster, but I had no emotional attachment to it. I didn't care. I was like, okay, failure, learn, check, next.
Yeah, yeah. I think it was a YouTube video. I think it's Jordan Peterson, very into like the
I love
motivational
him.
and learning stuff. Yeah, and he was saying, and I found it life changing for me because when things used to go wrong, it's like, oh, there's this, there's that, oh, this has gone wrong. It's a problem this, problem that. And I watched this video and he said, change the word from problem to obstacle. And the minute I changed it from problem to obstacle, it felt like a challenge. So I use it today. I'll still use it today. And are consistent with it. So when there is tough times, I like, right, this is an obstacle. And it just seems, one, it seems like a challenge to overcome, and it just seems more manageable.
Yeah,
And it's a change of a word. When you go with problem, you feel like you're just going to drown in everything.
that's right.
So that's how I try to use that
Yeah,
mindset. And I actually get of my clients to adopt that. And that seems to
yeah.
work for them as well, just by changing
We
crazy.
we have the exact same process you and I do. I just use a different word. You said the word, but you started with obstacle, but I just call it a challenge. Oh, okay, this is interesting. This is a new challenge. Let's lift up the
Yeah.
rock and let's look under this challenge. What's underneath here? What lesson lies here? And of course I am a human being, and there are some times that I look at myself in the mirror and go, I'm pretty sick of these stupid challenges. Because I get frustrated like
Yeah.
everybody else does, right?
Yeah.
But those moments are really very rare in my life.
Yeah, it tends to be where you're probably tired, emotionally spent, lacking in energy, and things are not going. And we've all got a limit of patience there. But then it's like rest. go back to it in the morning. I know at a certain type of time of day, I'm not going to achieve a lot. I'm probably around about this time now after a long day. So I'll cut my losses and I'll start again tomorrow, the following day.
Yeah, yeah,
Tomorrow's a new day.
yeah. No, I do that. It is a very popular phrase in our household where Dad will say, "Hey, let me sleep on it," and it doesn't mean I'm tired. It just means there. By the way, there is something interesting about the human mind is that you can be struggling with something today and not know the answer. Go to bed, get a good night's rest, and wake up tomorrow and somehow have an
Oh,
understanding of what you're supposed. It's crazy.
massively, massively. There's times you have in your life, you know yourself that you're like, I don't know, how I'm going to get through the day. And obviously, we've got through all of them so far.
Yeah,
You go to bed tired, exhausted, and then you wake up in the morning and you've got that level of energy. One of the things that I learned myself is to deal with your problems early in the morning. And I get a lot of
yeah,
clients to do it when they're overwhelmed. They've got phone calls to make. Do them
yeah,
first thing in the morning, as soon as the phone line's open, whatever it might be,
yeah. Yes, sir.
because you've got more. There's two things for it. You've got more energy to deal with the adversity, and you get it out of the way, and the rest of the day. Whereas if you try to do it at like 5 p.m., the whole day it's been on your mind. You're putting it back. You're putting it back. Then you haven't got the energy levels there as well. So trying to deal with it as soon as you can, and then move on with the rest of your day.
Spot on right there.
Yeah, it seems to work. It
So
seems to
here's a
make
question.
sense.
Here's a
Go on.
here's a question I have for you. So this is something I think, your clients, and I think we all struggle with, right? Which is how do we tell the difference between when we're fighting through something versus when we really need to cut the string and move a different direction?
Depends on the issue, I would imagine.
Right, it
Mhm.
does. Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. And so because I get asked that question sometimes when I'm speaking, and at the end of the speech, the audience will ask questions. And it's surprising to me how frequent this question comes up. They'll say, "Scott, I loved what you said. I say all these nice things." And they'll say, "I'm working on such and such, and I don't know if I should just stop and do something else." Right. And so what's your advice to me, Scott? Should I keep going forward or should I just stop? And they get very, I think, enlightened and disappointed by the answer that I have universally to this question. Right. My universal answer to this is that you, audience member, just asked me a question because you were looking for permission to quit. That's what you just did.
Yeah.
I'm on a stage. I've written a book. I've done this. I've done that. You've put me on a pedestal as if I have secret knowledge, all powerful knowledge to control, influence, determine your life trajectory. You just asked me a question, giving me that authority to tell you to quit. And
Yeah.
so I'm going to hold
Absolutely.
up a mirror. I'm going to hold up a mirror, audience member. And the real person that needs to answer that question is you. And you're afraid to answer it. And by the way, you know the answer, but
Yeah.
you asked me because you wanted me to give you permission to quit, and you'll never get that from me.
Yeah.
That's my universal answer.
Yeah, it's a good one because, like, as a therapist, you don't tend to advise. You can't really, even that might be blatantly obvious to me, which it might not be for them, and everyone's circumstance is different. People often want your opinion. What do you think I should do? Lucky enough, you've got your standard answers. You do what you think is right for you with the circumstances you've got, that kind of thing there as well. But it's easy, like you said, where you got a guy on stage, knows his stuff, said some really good stuff, motivating there as well. I'm not feeling good about what I want to do. So if I go up to him and say, look, this is, I really love what you said, but I'm struggling here and there. If you say, yeah, well, why don't you just quit and do something else? Great, brilliant. That's all I needed. Just needed that. But when you say the opposite, the onus is back on them. Do they quit? They've just listened to you be motivational, inspirational. So there's a bit of a contradiction. Or do they then go, actually, maybe I need to reevaluate it. Let's look at it from a different perspective. Let's see what I'm missing here. See, am I completely wasting my time or have I just not achieved what I want for whatever reason?
Yeah. And if people make that honest assessment, because here's what I've experienced with myself. Let me just talk about myself. I've asked that same question of other people, privately wanting permission to quit. And some people have given me that permission, and I followed their stupid advice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. When
It-
you look back, when you were saying that, I can look back in the past and there's been times that inner child in you is looking for that person to go, yeah, you know what, you can, yeah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Do something. Oh, okay. Cheers for that. Relief.
yeah. And that's why, in the 24 chapters of my book, there's not one sentence where you will find me telling people to do something like that.
No.
Right? Unlike seems like every other book I pick up, here's the 7 steps to get everything you want. and it just drives me absolutely insane, those titles. But back to the audience member. We all know this. We know the truth that's standing in front of us of, are we putting in the real work? Are we doing the right things? Are we disciplined? Are we making the right? We know the answer, but we refuse to confront that answer because the truth of what we're really doing or not doing we think is more painful, right? That to admit to the truth is more painful than it is to live this life of not achieving our goals. I'll just ignore it, ask other people, look for advice instead of doing the hard work of looking at ourselves and saying, "Hey, let's be honest here. What are you really doing?"
One of the things that I've discovered, there's certain things that like you sound like you're Jordan Petersons, and there's a lot of motivational stuff out there, Jocko Willink, David Goggins, and stuff. And there's a few things out there that I had to listen to a few times before I'd accept her, even though I knew they were right. And one of them is, even if bad things happen to you, somebody's done something bad to you, you're still part of the problem.
Yeah,
I was in denial at that. A
yeah,
lot of the things that's gone on in my life, bad choices with exes, I realized that a big part of it, I was the problem without a doubt.
yeah,
And if
yeah,
I'd done what I should have done, and not ignored the warning signs and just buried my head, I wouldn't have had a problem in the first place. So
yeah,
then it's about taking accountability, which is one of the
yeah.
hardest things for a lot of people to do.
Yes, yes, sir. When some people, people have asked, "Man, Scott, when you were at that low point, I mean, how did you carry your anger forward with those people that stole the money?" I mean, because they were emotionally feeling the anger that they would feel if they were stolen from and your
Yeah.
last dollar. How did you overcome that anger? And there's a part of that again that I talk about in the story, and it's in alignment with what you're talking about. And I basically call it, for me, it was extreme accountability. And what I mean by extreme accountability is that I self assessed that no matter what happened, what was stolen from me, right? What they promised, what they told me, I gave them money. No matter what answer or comment I came up with, I said to myself, you are 100% responsible. Wait a minute, Scott. You mean you've been stolen from $10,000 and you're claiming responsibility for? Yes, I am. I made the investment. I'm responsible. But Scott, they stole it from you. I understand. I made the investment. I'm responsible. I did the due diligence. I'm responsible. My answer during a short period of time, and I could not articulate it this clearly at the time. I can just look back and spell it out now, was extreme accountability that I am responsible for everything. And when I took that power out of and away from victimhood, somebody this, when I took all of that power away, all I ended up doing was empowering myself to get out of the freaking hole that I was in. I empowered myself to get there. I forgave myself. I wasn't looking for anybody else to forgive me. I forgave myself. I wasn't looking for anybody else to bail me out, tell me I was going to be okay. I told myself I'm going to be okay. Right. And that was a deeply inward looking process for me to bounce back from what happened because there was nobody there coaching me, tapping me on the shoulder, patting me on the back. It was freaking anybody. There was me. And so that's something I hope the audience listens to because there are millions of people out there right now. Like the title of my book is Wake Up to Die Again. That's the
Yeah.
title.
Yeah. I love the
And
title.
yeah, there are people, and you know these people, you probably have been there in your life, is that there are people waking up right now every day. They just wake up to die again every day. And we know 'em.
The thing is, I think the older you get, hopefully the wiser, the more wisdom you've got there as well. For me, I'm very much seize the day, maximize it as well.
Yeah,
Um,
but you weren't always there.
no, you're making up for lost time. You're making up for lost time. My
Yes, sir.
circumstance, you're catching up with many lost years due to circumstances, not my fault. But then I look back and even though I was a victim to this and this, I still need to take accountability of it. I could have done things better. Yeah, but Lee, you didn't know any better at the time. Yeah, I could have still out of a better. You can give all the excuses, but I know no matter what, that is down to me. And I didn't maximize what I should have done. Listen to negative people around me, didn't reach my full potential. Now I'm at a stage where I'm trying to do all the things that I want to do.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
That's actually one of the scariest things in life to me is not trying to find out what my full potential is. I don't know what it is. I'm still trying to find out. I'm still doing
Um,
Ironman races. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, for me, it's the good old quote of it's a journey, not a destination. Just keep on going, whether it's improvement, whether it's knowledge, whatever it is, whatever it might be, is you just
Yeah.
keep on going. Just keep on going.
Right.
You set yourself the targets there, whatever it is for you, whatever that might be for you. My target's
Yep.
completely different to somebody else. Lee, why would you
Yep.
care about that? But yeah, it is what it
Yep.
is. For me, that gives me energy. That gives me motivation. I've got like friends that they just sort of sit there and they finish work, and then it's like, let's binge Netflix every night. And I can't. I just physically cannot do that.
Can't do it.
If I do something, it's because I've achieved all the things that I've needed to do in that day, in that week, and then I'll allow myself. Otherwise, I can't, because I'm wasting too much time. And I should be doing something else. And I'm
Yep.
quite grateful for that mindset.
Yep. It's a beautiful place to live, man. We're not perfect. We don't get it right every day.
I get it
Pretend to
wrong.
be,
I get it wrong nearly all the time. Like the
but
amount
I'm
of
just
things I
saying,
do wrong in a day.
yeah, that's the other side of my book, right? You have the millions of people who wake up to die a little bit more every day, but then you have Lee and Scott who are on the other side of that. And when we wake up to die again, it's a beautiful thing because we're shedding the things that no longer serve us anymore. That's the difference.
Yeah, we've all got our own reasons, but for me, it's make up for lost time, make up for missed opportunities. Let's maximize that full potential. Biggest things for a person is the fulfillment that keeps us going. That's what we're designed for, is to keep achieving on and on and on. And that's why you get people that are in there still doing stuff and achieving stuff,
Yeah.
because their mind's active, they're busy, they're not just sitting there watching reruns of Jerry Springer and stuff.
Yep.
They're actively learning and evolving, no matter the age.
Yeah. What so how so, in that light, how does Lee wrestle with the voice that we all have, right? That says, "Hey, Lee, nobody really wants to talk to you on the podcast. Nobody cares," or whatever it is. How does Lee wrestle with those things? Because we all have that same voice.
On the podcast, I know I get a lot of people that want to come on, so there's always that. There's always
It may not be the podcast, it can be anything else,
it's yeah. I mean, there's always that self. There's always the self doubt there as well. But I think I'm very much on evidence and logic there as well. So,
Okay.
like as a therapist, I've never had imposter syndrome. I know what I can give. I know my ability. I know my level. Yeah. Am I going to charge X amount? No, because my level's this. But I'm not going to charge under that there as well. I get a lot of clients that come to me that I've been recommended them because somebody's come to me and they passed my details on there as well. So the evidence is there to suggest that I can achieve results or help clients achieve what they need to do there as well. Um, I'm honest, so I know my limits. I know my capabilities. I know the things that I can improve on. I know the things that I can achieve. At the moment, I'm trying to get to like a B1 level in French, because I weren't happy that I mean, I speak several languages, but I wasn't happy that my French was where it should be. Now I'm tunnel vision. I've got my my little sort of study list of like lessons and all these different things to do. And I do it every day religiously
Yeah.
to achieve it. And I can feel it there as well. But I want to achieve that. I know I can achieve it, but then I have to do the things that I need to do there as well. Maintain that consistency.
I love what you said though, 2 words, evidence-based.
Oh,
That that is powerful, man.
evidence and logic for me. And I
Yeah.
use that with clients that are struggling with anxiety. So they're catastrophizing about these things is never going to happen. Let's bring that back. Let's go through the evidence and logic. Is
Yeah.
even if
Well,
it
the what
did, what's the worst
what I
that's going to happen there as well?
yeah, what I love so much about it is one of the things I talk about to people is when they talk about how to overcome self-doubt, and I start talking to them about, what do you mean self-doubt, right? Explain that to me. And the more they talk about it, what they're actually telling me is that they have self-doubt because they don't trust themselves anymore.
Yeah.
And I say, "Okay, well, what is it you don't trust him? How did you lose trust with yourself? I mean, it's you." Then ultimately you get to a place where they admit that they had a lot of promises that they made themselves, and they broke all those promises, so they don't trust themselves anymore,
Yeah.
right?
And
And so that's why I loved what you said about evidence is because you have to go back through a retraining with them to reproduce evidence that is fact-based so you can rely on it and thereby trust yourself. Again, it's the reversal of it, and you probably experience this with your clients.
Yeah, it really comes in beneficial at times to be a therapist and have a good understanding of a lot of psychology, because a lot of the things with clients, they come to me and they got zero confidence. I can't do this. I can't do that. Whose voice is in your head? Oh, it's my parents. They told me I couldn't do this. I couldn't do that. Okay, is that true? I don't know. And I always say to them, remember, feelings are not facts. Just because you think and feel something doesn't mean it's true. Give me one reason
Yeah,
why you can't do that. And it's like, well, I've always thought that I can't. Oh, yeah, but that's a thought. That's not evidence to say you can't do it. And then you start working towards being able to do your small steps towards that goal.
yeah.
So there's a few powerful things that can make a big difference, but that's one of the ones that I certainly use a lot with
You
clients.
I love the English language because words have very unique meanings in the English language, you know? And you have, inspired me today. Something I'm going to incorporate into my vocabulary moving forward here is using that word evidence. What is the evidence?
I'm all about evidence.
No, I love it, man. The way you use it is really sticking with me. So I'm going to I appreciate that. I love learning from other people. And so
Yeah.
I'm gonna learn that from you today. So
And it's like with the podcast there, you get people on and there's so much you can learn from them. It's one of the best parts of the podcast, really, is the
yes,
people that
sir.
wow and understanding their mindset. One of the things been on my mind to ask you ever since we like arranged this is that out of nowhere you do Ironman competitions. That's not a lot of fun.
Well, it is a lot of fun.
I'm sure
Uh,
it is.
it is, but it's because
That's extreme.
it is. I mean, it's commonly believed this is the hardest race that any human being can complete is the Ironman race. And
Yeah, I've seen that.
yeah, and
Like,
so, but I have to say, this is where the Ironman was another. The first race I did, the first Ironman race I did was in Arizona, near Phoenix, Tempe, Arizona, in the desert. And training, I trained for just almost a year for
yeah,
the race. Yeah, yeah. And early in the training, this voice, was asking me this question. And Lee, I think you'll appreciate this. The voice was, Scott, what are you willing to sacrifice?
yeah,
And I wrestled with that, and I was like, "Oh, TV, and I'm not gonna do this," and all these things, but the answers just never settled in my soul that was the right answer. And, weeks and a few months went by, and ultimately one day on a run, the thought popped in my head. I knew exactly, "Scott, what are you willing to sacrifice?" I go, "Oh my god, I know what you're asking me." And the answer was me. I'm sacrificing myself. That's what I'm willing to sacrifice. And I share that with you because when I understood that, that led me to a new personal discovery about myself during my Ironman training. Okay. And this is the phrase. The more of myself I'm willing to sacrifice, the more of myself I find.
yeah.
And that has been a life-changing mantra for me. And it just permeates everything I do today. If I ask myself all the time, Scott, if you're going to do this, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because when I identify that, I can exactly tell you what my outcome's going to be.
Yeah, and that's your focus. That's the difference between yourself that knows how to achieve what you want to achieve. The also rans that drop off, and that's easy to do. Is to drop off, and
Oh man.
the motivation's fleeting. I went for before I was a therapist. I was in like a sales job, and I worked in sales, very sort of at Wolf of Wall Street, I sort of say, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just crazy insane. It's absolutely insane. But I went for a sales job and they asked me about how do I work in sales and that sort of thing. And they said about motivation. I said, I don't have any motivation. And they looked at me like, what do you mean? You're in sales and you're telling me you've come for a sales job and you're saying that you don't have any motivation for the job. I went, no. And they're like, why have you come here? I said, well, I want to make money and I'll do a good job for it. Yeah, but you just told me you got no motivation for the job. Yeah, that's the truth. I
What
said,
a great
motivation
story.
sucks. And they're like, what do you mean motivation sucks? And don't get me wrong. I'm not original. I'd seen it somewhere else.
Yeah.
Can you explain why motivation sucks? I said, how many people do you interview for a sales job? They all tell you how motivated they are. But when they start on the Monday, they're motivated. They love the job. It's the greatest job. Wednesday, a bit quiet. By Friday, they're just going through the motions. It's a sales job, up and down with people's moods.
Yep.
Yeah, all the time. I don't offer motivation, but what I do offer you is consistency. I will turn up and do the same job every single day to the best of my ability. And then it was like, you know,
Right you are,
and
sir.
over
Hire
absolutely, yeah, motivation is temporary, consistency,
yeah.
is what makes the difference there.
That's why, it doesn't happen very often, but sometimes people will say, "Hey, Scott, you're a motivational speaker. Would you come speak to us?" And I go, "Yeah, I'm more than happy, but can we talk real quick about motivational speaker?" I'm not a that's not my deal, you know?
It's too easy to just say if you're on stage and you're saying good things, you're a motivational speaker.
Yeah,
No, you're not. Listen
yeah.
to what I'm saying. How would you describe yourself when you're on stage? Because on stage,
I'm a change yeah, no, I do. I'm a change agent, man.
yeah,
I'm a change. I speak about transformational events, lived experience. Okay. I'm not talking about what other people did and how the war was won. And I'm not talking about any, I'm talking about real lived experience that are transforming events that are truthful in our lives. That's what I talk about. right? And that's why people are drawn
Yeah.
to the speeches that I give is because they all tell me this. They all tell me, "My God, Scott, that was so authentic. I felt like I was in your story. I felt like you were in my story. Your
Yeah.
facts are different than mine, but they all that's what I get from my audience." And so that's I speak about lived experience in high trust organizations. And anyway, that's why I've been successful at it.
That's what for me, that's what I want to hear because like with the podcast, I'll get inundated with motivational speakers, entrepreneurs, people's gonna make me a millionaire. And I'm like, no. I just because pretty much give or take, I'm hearing the same thing over and over. Yeah, yeah, it's the same thing. I can predict what they're going to say,
Yeah,
and there's so many books out there that's pretty much the same thing. And you're like,
yeah, it is.
I could have wrote most of this. I
Yeah,
want to hear somebody's story. Hence the name of the podcast, the type of guest that
yeah,
I have on there.
yeah.
Okay, so this guy, what he's achieved. Okay, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Tell me your story. How did you get from the beginning, whatever that is, to where you are now? And when you hear that story, that's inspiring. With my podcast, I actually asked a while ago some clients of mine at the time, if you listen to like a mental health podcast or people that overcome adversity, what would you want? Because there's a lot of very dry podcasts out there that's just a bit, even for a therapist, is a bit dull. I want it to be really interesting, really inspiring for people. And they all said the same. They all said they wanted to hear different stories that they could relate to and how that person got through it and overcome
Yeah.
it and then feel inspired by their transformation.
And
Perfect.
by the way, inspiration and motivation are two different things. Don't ever confuse those two
No,
words.
no.
Okay. And inspiring someone based on a true lived experience is a wonderful thing for life.
Yeah.
There's a reason why some of the best selling movies ever made in America are always based on a true story. That's where the inspiration comes from.
Yeah. Whether it's fictionalized or not or whatever. But when
Well,
you
they
see
always
somebody come
fictionalize
through,
it, but it
oh, of
doesn't
course.
change the yeah.
No, but when you see what somebody's gone through and how they managed to come through it as well, I can see why those films are always so popular.
And, people ask me, so like, I'm also, I don't think I shared this with you, but I'm also a columnist in an American newspaper here. My stories are published every Saturday. Okay.
Yeah,
And I write about these topics, right? I write about failures in life, but they're inspirational stories, not motivational. They're inspirational. And
yeah,
sometimes the stories I write about, I leave the reader at the end going, "Oh my God, I need to know more. What happened?" Or how did we get here? Because they're short stories, 500, 600 words, 400
yeah,
words. And I'm sharing this with you because they ask me, Scott, where do you get your inspiration from? And I tell them all the time, they'll say, "Is it famous people? Is it this?" No, it has nothing to do I don't care what they say. I wanna know about somebody, what happened to them at 2 o'clock in the morning? You know what I mean? What hap How did they get out of it? That's what inspires me. I have my own story, but I know my story.
yeah.
So I love hearing about other people's story and how they came through adversity, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. That's what inspires me, and that's what you just said.
Yeah, it's the same for me, and also I've had some really great guests that have been really honest, and they've been through like a lot, like addictions and things like that. And it's not like they're on the podcast having a chat, and then their life's all perfect now. A lot of them they're like, yeah, Lee, I'm still working on myself every single day. I'm still having to do this. I have to go to the meetings, and I'm like, that really takes strength, and that really takes courage. That's really impressive.
And those are the real people that I want in my circle.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's the same for me. They're the people I want to speak to. I don't really want to hear somebody that is like, "Oh, well, this I had a really bad time here, and then everything else was just I achieved this, and this." I was like, okay. But when you got somebody that has really been through a lot, it wasn't an easy way out. They've had to hit rock bottom, then work their way out, and it wasn't just a quick step to this side and it's all good. It's taken weeks, months, years to improve, and slowly but surely there as well. How did you keep going? What made you do that? Was the light at the end of the tunnel? I want to hear that sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's again, I think that's why people are attracted to your podcast and you. I think that's why people are attracted to my book and when I work with them, it's because of one single word is authenticity. The world is
Yeah.
screaming for authenticity right now. Give me something real because all this social media crap, it's a bunch of sugar,
I don't
you
do
know?
it. Yeah. And I think that's the thing is people being authentic and being genuine, you
Yeah.
know.
You can't
And
fake it.
no, and I wouldn't be very good at it anyway. With me, I'm
Yeah.
I'm no different now talking to you in an interview as if I'll be talking to you in the street.
Yeah.
I- Even with my clients, I'm no different. That's just me.
Yep.
The area I come from, I think you guys would call it the projects. That's where
Oh
I'm
my
from.
gosh, that's where you're in the middle of it, helping everybody.
I'm out of it
Well,
now, never to
no,
go
yeah, but
back.
no, I was gonna say, listen, truth be told, everybody's in the projects if they're working on themselves.
Oh, you'll be there. You'll always be in the middle forever. So you just keep on going. With yourself, though, you've reached a high point there. So many great things going on for you. What's the future looking like for yourself there, Scott?
Yeah, so I mentioned to you earlier, right? So and you know that I just published my book a month ago.
Yeah.
And so I've been focusing right now temporarily on these podcasts
Yeah.
and out there speaking. I had a speech last night and actually won the best speaker award. There were multiple speakers, and so got a little that was a nice award last night. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm focused on right now is the promoting the book and speaking on these topics like you and I are talking about in other audiences around the country. And then that's going to continue. And what I'm really excited about is my next full Ironman that I've signed up for next year, which is Ironman Chattanooga. And so the training actually starts up earnestly next week. I'm back into that long grind, to Ironman Chattanooga. So those are the three things that I'm doing. And of course, I publish my weekly column in the newspaper here in the USA as well.
Hey, there's not a spare hour in a day for you.
Well, I wouldn't say that because it sounds like I'm just maxed out, but I'm not. Is I'm actually very disciplined in scheduling my work like they're meetings with myself. So, I get up early in the morning. Sometimes I'm up
Yeah.
at 4, sometimes I'm up at 5, but I really still live that military lifestyle where I do more before 8 a.m. than most people do, or some people do all day.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the early starts. I start early. I tend to have clients from 6 a.m. I've got clients worldwide. So I like to seize the day.
Yep. Seize the
Um,
day.
yeah,
Real quick,
go
that's in
on.
my book too, right? So nobody told us this is something I discovered writing my book, right? Carpe diem, seize the day. Okay. Nobody told us the rest of the sentence. I just discovered this writing my book. I can't remember the Latin phrase, but the full sentence, right, is seize the day, caring in as little as you can for tomorrow. Go look
Well,
it up, man. It's beautiful.
the thing is that we don't even know if we got tomorrow. People make
That's correct.
assumptions. When I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60, who says you're going to be there?
Yes,
This is
sir.
why it's important, as best as you can, to maximize each day because we just never know. Just never
I
know.
know. It was a profound thing to me to find out
Yeah.
what the whole sentence was.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Scott, absolutely brilliant talking to you. Love everything that you're doing. Love your story. Really great conversation there. And I wish you all the best with everything you're doing. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Feeling is extraordinarily mutual. And when I am in the UK, I promise you, you're on the top of my list,
Give
Lee,
me
that
a shout.
we connect and have a pint together over in the beautiful country of England. So
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Very British as well, going for a point. So yeah, I'm certainly up for that. Brilliant. Thank you, Scott.